For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, we are live and amplified. So let's get ready to podcast.
Fire it up.
Welcome, everybody, to another live and amplified podcast. I'm your host, Tom Platt, and we are back at it again with another amazing podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Tyler from Mylo, Bybee. How's it going today, Tyler?
I'm doing well, Tom. How are you?
Doing pretty good. I think I fumbled the band name a little bit, but I keep wanting to say Baby, but it's not Baby, it's Bybee.
It's all right.
But
no problem.
So you're out in Boise. How are things looking in Boise right now?
They're looking promising, I should say. I mean, things are still, shut down, kind of trying to ease back into things a little bit like everybody else is. See some signs of some things starting to open back up. And as far as music's concerned, again, starting to see some signs that show that things are kind of on the up and up. But of course, like everywhere else, we want to be cautious and just ensure that we're doing it safely. So things are looking good.
Awesome. I've only been through, I can't say I've been through Boise. I've only been through Idaho. We were on our way up to Montana. And the only thing I remember about Idaho was driving past the Potato Museum.
Oh yeah. That's usually, if someone hasn't been to Idaho, whether it's the museum or not, that's what we're known for here is the potatoes.
Yeah.
We even have a potato drop New Year's Eve. Like the ball drop in New York City, they of course drop a potato here.
Oh wow, that's so. But it was one of those things where we were taking a trip. We were going up to Montana, and we just kind of drove through Idaho because it was the way we went. And on the way back, we were like, "Let's stop in Idaho. Let's go to the Potato Museum." Except we had such a ball buster of a trip in Montana that we got to Idaho and we were like, no, I think I'm good. Let's keep driving and go home.
I don't blame you. I personally, I haven't even been to the Idaho Museum. Where is it? What town is it in? Do you remember?
I'm not sure what trip where we would have been.
I don't even know where.
Maybe
it's
Twin Falls.
East.
It had to be east. It had to be East Idaho because we were going up to Montana.
Right.
From Salt Lake City. So
no, I don't blame you.
So, but first off, I want to thank you so much for giving us the time to sit down and chat. I'm excited to get to know you a little bit more, learn more about your EP. I know you just released your first EP under Mylo, Bybee. But first, what got you into music? Like, what was your introduction to music?
Yeah, so I mean, pretty much, I know it's kind of cliche, but I've pretty much grown up around music. We had it in the household, had several different musical influences as far as who my dad and who my mom listened to growing up. A lot of like your Steve Miller bands, a lot of John Mellencamp's, Styx, a lot of AC/DC, a lot of rock in the house. So we just grew up around music. And I always had an interest in it. And when I was about 13 or so, I had asked for a guitar for Christmas. And I ended up getting my first electric guitar that actually, I don't know if you've ever seen them, but it had an actual amp like built into the guitar. Yeah. I don't think I've seen one since I got that, but it had an amp built into the guitar. So it's just this little speaker, that you could barely hear. But anyway, started playing that and really liked it and just kept at it. And then just went from there. Just always liked playing guitar, kind of taught myself guitar, had a couple of actual lessons, but then just really kind of taught myself, played by ear, like to just jam around, whether it actually sounded like music or not. And then, leading up through high school and college and to now, just always played in various bands and just loved being around it. Loved to go to live music. Obviously right now, that's something I'm really missing, but it's just always been a part of my life in many different ways.
Awesome. And now, are you born, raised in Idaho?
Yep. Born and raised right here in Boise.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How do you have aspirations or dreams of going anywhere else, or is like Boise your place and
Um,
your
I
ride or die?
actually, so I went to college in North Dakota, so I was
Okay.
there for about 5 years, and then I actually lived in Alaska for about 7 years. So
Okay.
I did get my opportunity to spend time
Oh,
elsewhere
yeah.
outside. Yeah, yeah, and then just it's one of those things you really appreciate, what you have once you go see other things. So, and obviously, don't get me wrong, Alaska was amazing. North Dakota had its great points too, but yeah, just obviously have a love for Idaho and love for Boise, so brought me back here.
You pretty much stayed in the same type of climate. Where in North Dakota did you?
Minot. I went to
Okay.
Minot State.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have a few friends that are from Minot.
Oh, really?
And then I actually almost, or I lived in Williston for about a week
Oh, yeah. Know it well. Know it
during the
well.
fracking boom.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Okay.
and so like the whole story real quick is I went up there for a job and found they told me that it was going to be a little bit more expensive to live there, but they didn't tell me how expensive it was going to be to live there.
Yeah.
And I got there, and the place I was going to stay at was an old converted elementary school. They just took all the classrooms and converted them to like apartment complex or apartment
Yeah.
homes. And just to stay there was going to be 1,500 a month,
Oh, boy.
and that's with two other roommates. And then I was like,
Yeah.
nah, I'm gonna go find someplace else. But every place else was 3 grand a month, and it was gonna cost me 10 grand just to move in. And I'm like,
Right.
I can't afford the rent here. This is
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Well,
So,
and not to mention North Dakota is the coldest place on the planet,
yep.
I think. So, well, that's yeah, I enjoyed it there. I actually went to college there. I played baseball there, and we used to go play the community college there in Williston.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
That's um so you so you're back in Boise doing the music thing. Um and then how long's Mylo Bybee been together? How long you guys just started because you just released your first EP, right?
Yeah, so we really started playing a little bit before the pandemic started. So I would
Mhm.
say November,
Mhm.
that November before the pandemic started. We kind of formed a group, and my it's my band's made up of my brother and my brother-in-law.
Okay.
So I didn't have to search very far for people who wanted to jam and play. We've all obviously played in bands throughout our lives in various instruments, and we were lucky enough to snag kind of a practice space where we could just keep our stuff and make noise and see where it took us. And then when the pandemic hit, there wasn't really much else to do,
Mm.
so we spent that time really just playing regularly and writing music and perfecting it and getting it to a point where we liked it. And then thought, once we saw the writing on the wall that the pandemic was going to last a lot longer than any of us intentionally or originally thought, we just decided to record part of what we've got. We have more songs than we recorded on the EP, but we
Mhm.
wanted to just get some initial tracks down, and then work on polishing the others and getting those right where we want them. So yeah, we were able to go into a local recording studio here, the Tonic Room, and pump out the EP, and we're super happy with it.
Awesome. I was going to ask if you guys recorded the EP yourselves or if you went somewhere because of the pandemic.
Yeah. There's a local place here called the Tonic Room. Jason over there at the Tonic Room does an amazing job.
Mhm.
He's recorded with a lot of big names and a lot of local names as well. So he's definitely well known here. He's a wizard at what he does, and it was an amazing experience. That was individually within the band. We had all done our own form of recording before. I had recorded once with a band before. My brother records a lot. Actually, he knows how to do a lot of that stuff. And then my brother-in-law, who plays drums, he's recorded with various bands before too. So we've all had somewhat of an opportunity to do that before. But it was really a neat experience.
Awesome. And so for the EP, you have 3 songs on there. How'd you kind of decide which songs you were gonna put on this EP as your
Yeah,
first part?
so we actually have 5 total. It's it's actually an error with how I uploaded them. We
Okay.
uploaded 2 as singles, and then the rest of the three went on the EP, but we have 5 total. So,
Gotcha.
yeah, we have about 10 songs right now total, and you know, I write all the lyrics for the songs and the guitar parts, and then obviously they write the bass and the drums. Some of these songs that we have, I've had for years.
Hmm.
You know, I've written years ago, and then never came to fruition, just solo. So once we got to the point where we had 10, you know, ready to go, we kind of just went down the line and wrote down, you know, our favorite tracks. Not even necessarily our favorites, but those that we were most polished on. We of course wanted to get those recorded that we were most polished on, because some of the others not quite where we want them, but they're super close, and hopefully we can record those in the near future too.
Gotcha, gotcha. And so 5 songs. Sorry, I saw
No,
the
no,
EP, I
that's
saw the 2 singles. I was like, okay, they released 2 singles beforehand, and then I saw the EP, and I was like, okay, 3-song EP.
no,
And
it's totally my fault. It's the way I uploaded them.
who'd you go through
Unfortunately,
to upload them?
DistroKid.
Okay.
And it was user error, and I'll get it fixed. But unfortunately, when to get that fixed, they have to pull them down and then put them back up, you know, and they can do that all in one EP, but then it takes, you know, 5-6 days to get up. So
Yeah.
I'm
I was gonna
not too
say
worried
at
about it
this
right now.
point, it's probably not a big issue.
Might not be a point. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know,
As long as everyone can hear them all, that's all we really care
yeah.
about.
You don't wanna lose, like, all the analytics, because 'cause I'm assuming if you have
Right.
them pull it down and then re-upload it, you lose all your analytics, so, you know.
It sounds like there may be a way to keep it, but like you said, it might be a moot point right now. So,
Yeah.
but either way, we got to record 5 of them, and we're super happy with all of them.
Gotcha, gotcha. So 5 song, and you primarily the writer of all the songs, or,
Yep.
like, how does what's the creative process kinda like in the band?
Yeah, so far anyway, you know, I've had all of the songs that we have right now. Well, most of them, I should say. I've written, you know, years ago, or you know, of recently, but before the
Yeah.
band got together. So I had lyrics, I had guitar parts, but even since then, you know, once Koji, who is my drummer, and Wes, who's the bass player, once we all got together and we're playing together, you know, Wes will have his thoughts, Koji will have his thoughts, I'll have mine. So even where the songs were when I first wrote them definitely isn't how they ended up. So, which is great. I mean, I obviously I'm super happy with where they're at. So far, yeah, I've brought in the music, but we're really looking forward to getting to a point where we can you know, practice regularly and write new songs together. I mentioned Koji's my brother-in-law. Him and my sister, they just had a brand new baby.
Oh, well. Yeah.
Yeah, just right around Christmas time. So obviously their time is a little bit consumed
Yep.
right now,
Yep.
and we're super happy to have her, a little girl, in the family. So
Nice.
that's really exciting. But yeah, as far as a creative process, just yeah, I do again the lyrics and the guitar, but it's nice to have obviously Koji's perspective, Wes's perspective. We all come from a little bit different of musical
Mhm.
backgrounds as far as what we listen to, what we
Yep.
play, what bands we've been in the past, and I think that actually really benefits us,
Mhm.
because it doesn't, you know, hold us in a box. It kind of allows us to expand our thoughts and ideas. And you know, when I'm playing something slow and melodic, you know, Koji wants to throw a really fast drum part over it, and it sounds really good sometimes.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it really takes us out of that box to try, you know, different tempos and beats per measure and whatnot. So I really enjoy that creative process. And obviously, you know, we're, you know, brother-in-law, so we get
Yep.
along super well, and spend a lot of time with each other outside of just practicing.
Yeah.
So it's a good relationship.
And it helps build, like, being the fact that you have that family bond kinda helps build the chemistry and the,
For sure.
just the natural feeling of the band. Like, no matter what, like, if you
Absolutely.
get to a point where you're touring consistently, you're at least with family to some
Right.
degree.
You're with people you know you'll be able to stand.
Yeah. Or you can at least trust, like, if stuff hits
Right,
the
right.
fan,
Yep. For
you're
sure.
you're good.
Absolutely.
Um, but
Yeah.
so you'd mentioned earlier that Mylo Bybee is you started performing together back in November of 2019. What was the original idea for the band? Like, was it your idea, or what was the original idea for it?
You know, Ever since I moved back from Alaska a little over 4 years ago or
Okay.
so, and I did play in a band in North Dakota when I was in college. I didn't in Alaska, and
Mm-hmm.
then when I moved back here, I knew I wanted to get back into it. I've played the whole time. Amongst that entire time, I played. I never stopped playing really. I played solo, played a lot of acoustic stuff, but really wanted to get back into, actually playing with a band and playing with a group. And when I first moved back, my brother Wes was actually still living in Los Angeles, so he wasn't back here either. And then I just started to kind of, once I was here, kind of mingle with the music community here. Met a couple of guys who were, vested in the community here to try to start to get some things put together. Because again, I knew I wanted to start something.
Yeah.
And then, shortly after that, my brother then moved back, and my brother-in-law Koji wasn't even actually playing drums at that time, but
Mm-hmm.
obviously had played drums. And I threw it out to him one day. I said, "Hey, you want to? What do you think about getting a drum set and playing some drums again?"
Yeah.
And just kind of went from there. My brother Wes, he plays bass for us. He's a guitar player, also a really
Yeah.
good guitar player, and writes all of his own stuff too. So bass wasn't even his first instrument, and I mean, he picked it
He
up, and
picked it.
yeah, picked it right
Yeah.
up. And obviously you can hear from the EP, he's got a lot of really, really nice bass lines in there and sounds really good. So it just kind of came together. And again, we already had that relationship. So it wasn't like on top of trying to get everybody's music feel down, trying to weigh it out, see if you get along with everyone. We were already past that.
Yeah.
It's just let's throw some things together and see what we come up with.
Gotcha. Do you have any thoughts or plans of adding maybe a fourth to the band, or is it?
Yeah, we've talked about it a little bit. I in the EP, you can hear there's some synth
Mm-hmm.
accents in some areas, etc. So we don't have a synth player currently. So I think something along those lines, maybe someone who plays keys would be a nice addition to the band.
Yeah.
For sure, maybe potentially a second guitar player. I try to fiddle around with using the loop pedals, but that's
Yeah.
that's super hard when you're playing live on stage, of course. So
Yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah, so yeah, we've definitely talked about it. But yeah, sometime in the future. We
Gotcha.
don't have we have two other stepbrothers that we could look to add to the band, but they don't play any instruments. So
It's like it. That sounds like me trying to learn how to play an instrument so I can go sit in on my buddy's band.
yeah, right.
It's it's just
That'd
one of
be
those
what it's
things.
like. Yeah.
I hang around with musicians all day, and it's like I get the most common question I get asked is, "Do you play an instrument?" And it's like I could play a mean cornet maybe back in the fourth
Yeah.
grade.
That's
Like
right. That's right. Or
that's where I
what
was
were
at.
those called? The recorders. The
No, the
recorders.
cornet. Like it was
Uh,
like a trumpet almost.
Oh, okay, okay. Our stepdad always tells us that if we ever need a recorder player, that he's the guy.
Nice.
Maybe we'll
I
maybe we'll look that way.
Yeah, I do remember that in like second and third grade, but I never picked it up. I was just like, nope, I
Yeah,
will get
yeah.
beat. I will get drug out and beat from my classmates if
Which
I.
is really funny because that's like the one instrument that they make everyone play in school,
Yeah,
and you don't see anybody past what, fourth grade that plays a recorder.
I mean, unless
Maybe they
they're
should
doing,
switch that instrument up.
yeah, unless they're doing it ironically, like just as like a goof almost. But
Right, right,
9 times out of 10, you don't see a recorder player.
right. We should bring that back.
I'd be, but I mean, it's just that sound. It's like
Yeah,
it's not a pleasing sound. Like they have to figure
no,
out a way to modify it a little bit to give it a
and
more.
it's gonna make everyone reminisce about second and third grade, and if they didn't love it, then that will just be a bad experience all
Oh
around.
yeah, oh yeah. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned that you have 10 songs kind of written, ready to go. You recorded 5 of them. When do you kind of plan on recording the rest of them, or is it kind of dependent on the pandemic? Like, what's kind of the plan for the rest of the songs?
Yeah, so we don't necessarily have anything set in stone. What we
Mhm.
really want to focus on is, getting all of our songs in our portfolio, to the point where we're really, really, really polished. We that was what led to us choosing these five.
Mhm.
Was that we know we were the tightest on those
Yeah.
songs. And these other five, I mean, we're pretty tight on them, but there's
Yeah.
just a few parts, as happens when you're writing, that they're just not 100% where we all want them. So, once we get to the point where they're really, really, really polished, obviously we want to start playing some shows,
Hmm.
and that type of thing too. So hopefully, maybe later on this year, maybe
Yeah.
start to record some of those. Maybe record one at a time and release
Yeah.
it. We don't really know yet, but we actually have a live show coming up in March. Sorry, a live. We're playing live. It's a virtual
Oh,
show,
okay.
coming up in March, where we are going to play, 9, 10 of our songs. So we'll
Yeah.
get to actually share them with other people. But yeah, as far as recording, maybe later on this year sometime.
Awesome. Yeah, yeah, because I know like Texas. I haven't even really seen any shows announced for this weekend, but usually every weekend I get an email saying, "Hey, here are where all the shows are at this weekend."
Yeah, yeah, right. Well,
And
yeah,
so
that's. Oh,
so
go
I've
ahead.
been telling all the musicians that are like itching to play, it's like, well, come down to Texas. There seems to be plenty of shows going on right now.
Yeah, yeah,
Or
right.
so
Yeah, I mean, and Boise's a very, it's very vested in the arts,
mhm.
which I love. And we have a really big festival here called Tree Fort that
Mhm.
I think it's on its I don't know what year, 13th year maybe.
Yep.
But it obviously, with everything else, got canceled last year and then got postponed until last September, and then
Mhm.
obviously saw the writing on the wall that that wasn't going to be able to happen. So got moved to this coming September, from traditionally it's usually in March.
Yep.
So and that's a really, really, really big thing for the community, because
Mm.
not only is it a great event, I mean, it brings so many amazing bands here to the community. It,
Yep.
it showcases local bands. I think this last year, I think there was roughly, 500 bands that were coming to this
Oh,
festival. Like 50 something were from other
yeah.
countries. So it's
Yep.
just a really, really neat event. And even aside from that, just any of the live music, leading up to something like that is just something that, obviously, preaching to the choir here, but something that we're just all missing and
Yeah.
all starved for.
Yeah. I was first introduced to Treefort about 3 years ago, I wanna say, because there was a couple of bands. I was living in New Mexico at the time, and, there was a couple of bands that play up in Albuquerque. They were going to Treefort,
Oh, nice.
and then
Yeah, yeah, it's a great time.
as I kinda get introduced to it all, I find out, or now that I live out in Waco, which is, like, 2 hours away from Austin, last year before like everything went really into lockdown and they canceled like South by, there was a few
Mhm.
different bands that were gonna, I think they were either going from Treefort to South by. Is that usually how it works, or is it the
I
other
think
way around?
so. I think yeah, I don't know actually, but yeah, either they hit a bunch of those festivals so that
Yeah.
it's not going out, just to hit one and then go back, because that's
Yeah.
that's tough to do. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I think Treefort might be before South by Southwest usually, but I'm not positive on that.
Because there was a couple of bands from Boise that were playing Treefort and then coming to South by, or they were coming to South by and then had to be out by a certain time to
Right,
make it
right.
back for Treefort. I don't quite remember how it actually
Yeah.
played out, but
Yeah,
um,
yeah. Hopefully they come back. Hopefully they're able to, bounce back, and I have
yeah,
full faith that they are. And
yeah.
so,
My real concern is some of these smaller festivals that were at the beginning of the year, so
yep,
or the beginning of the pandemic, so like March, April, May,
right.
and they had to cancel last year, and they're canceling again this year. That's 2 festivals in a row that they had to cancel. My concern would be, are you gonna be able to
Sustain and come back.
sustain and
Yeah,
come back
yeah,
next year? Because I
yep.
mean, you've already lost 2 years of your following, you've lost 2 years,
Right. Yeah,
so
it's hard. It's super hard thing for sure. Well, and even not even just festivals, like some of the venues.
Mhm.
I know there's not even new venues. There's some venues here,
Right.
obviously everywhere, that rely on live music and that
Yeah,
rely on shows and that bring in, bands from out of town, and people pay to see these
yeah,
bands. And it's just again, I know I'm not saying anything that we don't
yeah.
already know, but it's just, hopefully all these places are able to recover. And I think that's why it's super important just to be vested in your community and go
Mhm.
out and, support by, doing whatever you can. If they are having like a COVID safe outdoor social distancing show, like go support it.
Mhm.
If
Yeah.
they're having local artists, supporting your local art, setting up in markets or whatever it might be, you know, COVID safe, go support them.
Yeah.
And that's what it's going to take.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it was one thing that I found really interesting at the beginning of the pandemic was it really showed how close a lot of these venues are to just constantly going out of business.
Yeah.
Because, you know,
Yep.
it's like I think within the first month, because I'm in on a lot of different music communities, and within the first month, I saw over 60 or so venues close down because they just couldn't
Yeah.
keep it going. And
Yeah.
it was like, it's not even been a month yet. What and like at that time,
Yeah.
it was like, what if this goes on for a year or 2 years?
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
like
well, and I hope what ultimately comes out of this is obviously things open back up, and you know, bands and art and whatnot kicks back up. But I hope it instills a little bit more of a sense of
mm,
just what you said. Like, you know, a lot of these are solely here for this purpose, to put
yeah,
on music so that we can go see live music. So hopefully it's going to bring more out, you know, that maybe wouldn't have traditionally gone to, you know, a local pub or a local club that plays a certain type of music. Maybe they're going to go try it now because they realize, you know, how razor thin, you know, some of these margins are that these are operating
yeah,
under, and just really a more of an appreciation for the arts that we've been
yeah,
lacking.
yeah, absolutely. So you'd mentioned that you are moved back to Boise about 4 years ago, but prior you were in Alaska. And you said you didn't play music at all in Alaska?
I had my guitar with me, so I was originally in a rural setting
Mhm.
where in a little village where it jamming wasn't really an option.
Yeah.
We'll just put it that way. And I did have my acoustic guitar out there with me, so it could always play guitar.
Yeah.
And then lived in Anchorage for a little while, and yeah, same thing there. I would go, you know, listen to a lot of, you know, live music, and you know, always surrounding myself with it, but never got into an actual organized band with
Yeah.
anybody. But again, still playing guitar and whatnot, you know, every day. But just yeah, never got anything started or formed up there.
Gotcha. But as long you were still playing, just not the way you wanted to play.
Yep, yep. Still
Yeah.
playing my at least my acoustic every day, and I did have an electric and an amp for a little bit up there.
Mm,
But you know, when you're not jamming with a bunch of guys, at least for me, I tend to just pick up the acoustic because it's a
yeah.
lot easier just to
Yeah.
write and play, and you don't have to plug in an amp and lug it around. And so yeah,
Did you
didn't really
do
play a lot of electric.
did you do a lot of writing while you're up in Alaska?
Yeah, I did actually. And many of the songs that we have now were from that time. A couple were before that from when I
Yeah.
was in college. But and then a couple, you know, came about once we'd been a band. But
Yeah.
yeah, I actually wrote a lot of those while I was there because, you know, just kind of stuck to my own thoughts while I was playing with my acoustic and my own writing, you know, rather than having a full band around me. So yeah, got a lot of them started at least.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Um, so outside of music, what's your thing? What do you do outside of music?
Yeah, so I live in Boise here with my partner Heidi, and then we have a dog. We have a Siberian Husky that
Nice.
obviously likes to be outdoors, and she's
Yeah.
very vocal about it and lets you know. And so, you know, we travel a lot. We are always going camping, doing a lot of
Yeah.
camping, that type of stuff. Just like to travel, go to new places. We spend a lot of time in Oregon. I like to go to the Oregon coast a lot. There's some of our favorite places here in Idaho where you're in the mountains, you're in
Mm.
snow in the winter time, that we like to go to a lot. Like to be on the water a lot. Got some
Yeah.
friends with some boats, and
How far is the Oregon coast from you? How far of a drive is that?
so I can make it to the coast in probably 9 hours or
Okay.
so. Because
Yeah.
we usually will stop in Portland. We have some family in Portland, so we'll
Yeah.
stop and see them. That's about an 8 hour drive, and then about another to the coast.
Okay.
Another hour to the coast.
Okay. Gotcha. So
Yeah.
it's not like a day trip, it's like an extended weekend thing that you'll do.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Well, and we're fortunate enough. I've worked remotely for a while,
Mhm.
but my partner Heidi, she was working in an office before the pandemic, but then since that is working indefinitely remote, indefinitely she's working remote, and
Mhm.
so that kind of allows us the flexibility, of course, to
Yeah.
if we want to go work somewhere else and travel somewhere, we can do that, and we've
Yeah.
we've definitely taken advantage of that. So yeah, we just like to be on the go all the time.
Nice. I made the joke to my boss the other day. I was like, if this job, because we've been working from home since the beginning of the pandemic, I work for a TV station. And I was like, if this job was truly remote, I'd be down in the Keys with my parents right
Right?
now. I'd
Yeah,
be
yeah,
working in the
yeah,
Keys right now. Like this job,
yeah, exactly.
it's one of those. I'm constantly on call to like go on a shoot or something, and it's just like, I mean, yeah, it's nice being able to just roll out of bed at 9:30 and be on time for work,
Yeah.
but it's like,
Yeah, yep, for sure. No, and that's kind of how my partner's is too. She she's technically, she's working from home, even
yeah,
though it's a remote job. She's got
yeah,
to be working out of the house. Whereas in my case, they don't really care where I'm at. I mean, I work for a educational publishing company based out of Boston, and so my closest, most of my colleagues, I should say, are in either New York or Boston. So they don't really care where I'm at as long as the work's getting done and I'm showing up to my meetings.
yeah, absolutely. It's I think the one positive thing that we could take out of the pandemic is that we're gonna find out that a lot more people can work from home.
Right,
And you can
right,
either take that as a positive or a negative. For me, I'm looking at it as a positive because I don't have to drive a half hour into the office. Because
right.
driving through Waco doesn't seem like it's a big city, but when you have to drive from one end of the town to the other, when everybody else is trying to do the exact same thing, it's like,
Yeah. Yeah,
eh,
it's interesting. I mean, from my perspective, we don't have kids or anything, so
yeah,
we're also not homeschooling,
yeah,
at the same time we're working like other parents are.
yep,
And traditionally, like here in Boise, I mean, it's pretty small, so you don't have really a commute anywhere you go. But
hmm,
talking to a lot of my colleagues, like that do live in New York City or do live, in the suburbs, like, hour and a half commute to work every single day, like they're eliminating that from their day, and so it just ultimately is leading to a healthier work life balance, which obviously is a positive, but it's obviously one of those things too, like I'm one of those people too. Once you're not surrounded by actual people and colleagues and get to interact with people in person, like it wears on a person too. So those are some of the not so positive things about it too. So it's case by case basis, of course,
yeah,
but there will be pros and cons.
yeah. I will say though, I do feel it when, like, say, every day I know for a fact I have a 3 o'clock meeting. Let's and say I do feel it when that meeting gets canceled because it's like, oh, that was my social interaction for the day.
Right, right, yeah.
What do I do?
Now what? Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
I've been sitting here in the silence for the last seven
Yeah.
hours. Like, what do I do?
Please schedule a meeting.
Yes, somebody, a meeting, please. And that's the funny thing is like, there's there's 6 people in my department, and half of them all have roommates, families, kids, like there's other people
Yeah.
in the house, and they're like,
Hmm.
man, I don't really like the meetings. And I was like, no, I need the meetings because I
Right. I
live by
have to
myself.
have.
This is the
Yeah.
only social interaction I get unless I specifically go out somewhere.
Yeah. Oh,
But
absolutely.
still
Absolutely.
10 hours by yourself, it's just kind of like, what do I
Yeah.
do?
Well, and hopefully, it's like you said, jobs are realizing that people can work from home once things are open back up. So you can still go have, your social life,
Hmm.
but just, still work from the house, which I
Yeah,
think will be, of course, the best of both worlds. But again, that's my situation.
yeah.
So everyone's a little different.
Yeah, absolutely. I dream of the day that I can just pack up my car and just work out of my car. And basically,
Yeah.
wherever I'm at is where my
Might
office is.
might not be too far away.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah.
Um, so you like to travel. Where's one place that you haven't been that you really want to go to, that you want to check off the bucket list?
Hmm. Well, I am a scuba diver
Mm.
when I'm around water. When I was in Alaska, I was scuba diving a lot. I would love to go dive the Great Barrier Reef. So
Oh, well.
Australia, is definitely one place that I'd like to check off the bucket list. Got to go to Cabo a couple years ago and go scuba dive there. That was great.
Nice.
We have some family that actually lives out there in La Paz, so we got some contacts out there, and
Yeah.
get to go back there, on occasion, hopefully coming up here. But definitely Australia. Stateside, one place I haven't actually been, that I'd like to see is Maine.
Okay.
For me, total other side of the country, but haven't been to Maine at all. I know I had a lot of acquaintances who would do seasonally, like in Maine, and then they'd go
Mhm.
to Alaska for the other part of the year, and then back to Maine, and
Oh, well.
and just heard and seen a lot of really great things from Maine. So
Nice.
yeah, that's another place I'd like to
That's awesome.
go.
It's funny. I talk to bands about like their dreams and their aspirations, and a lot of them say they want to play or visit all 50 states. And the two most common states that they're missing are Alaska and Maine.
I'm sure, yeah, the hardest to get to.
Yeah. And it's never Hawaii. It's like, well, I mean, I guess that makes sense, but
Yeah.
like who doesn't want to go to Hawaii?
Yeah, yeah.
But scuba diving in Alaska, that's a thing. That's
Yeah, yeah, actually, and I didn't know it was either until I did it. But it's a different type of diving because you have to dive in a dry suit
yeah,
rather than a wet suit because
yeah,
it's obviously freezing water, and
yeah,
and that's a whole other trajectory for learning when you're diving in a dry suit, because obviously that fills up with air, which throws off your buoyancy a lot. And obviously in scuba diving, you can't just shoot to the top because then you get sick.
hmm
And so it's a whole other ball game. But that's the way I learned how to do it. And so when I went to tropical waters, I went to Hawaii and dove. I went to Mexico
yeah,
and just dive in a wetsuit, and it's like, why was I diving in this super heavy dry suit in Alaska where I couldn't move very much,
yeah,
and I was still cold even in that.
yeah.
But I will tell you the where I got to go was two towns. I don't know if you're familiar with Alaska at all. One's called Whittier, and then the other's called Seward. It's not very
Mm,
far outside of Anchorage. And those were some amazing dives, even after I
nice.
have others to compare it to now. There was a place we got to dive in the town Whittier where there was a plane crash
Oh wow.
from like World War II. So it was a
Mhm,
World War II plane down that you could dive through, and
yeah.
obviously it's been there for a long time, and so it's full of
That,
seaweed and fish and whatnot. But it
uh,
was it was amazing.
is are you only able to dive during specific times of the year, or is it pretty much whenever you want to go?
It's pretty much whenever you want to go.
Mhm,
I mean, I wouldn't go in the middle of winter,
yeah,
but you are in a dry suit, and so I mean, if you usually have, like, it looks like a baby's onesie essentially that
yeah,
you're wearing underneath. That's like flannel or
yeah,
fleece or and that keeps you warm. And usually the only thing that's exposed is, like, right around your mouth where your regulator is.
yeah.
And of course, with my beard, I had a little more insulation, so I didn't. I was warm. I was fine.
Yeah,
But
you're good.
you can pretty much go, yeah, yeah, all
Okay,
year round. Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah,
Because you always hear about like the cruise liners and stuff that can only go through Alaska or certain times of the year because of like icebergs and the
yeah,
ice shelf
yeah,
and all that
yep.
stuff. But
Yeah, yeah, and that's another thing too. I mean, there's areas out there where, I'm thinking of a place in particular. It's like a shore dive where you don't have to take a boat. You can just
mm,
walk right down a ramp and go in there. And
yeah,
and there's some areas around there that freeze over. So yeah, people, I would hope, aren't diving during that time.
yeah, because
I mean, I'm sure they do, but
that's just got danger written all over it.
right, right. There's an extra barrier there that you have to be cautious of when there's an
Oh yeah,
ice shelf above you.
yeah, yeah,
But they probably exist. Those people that like to do that, just not for me.
yeah, absolutely. So kind of moving forward with the band and everything, obviously getting out and doing shows is kind of a big thing once the pandemic lifts. How many, or when there isn't a pandemic, how often are you usually out playing, or would you like to be playing?
I mean, it goes back to that, we want to get to the point where we're just, completely polished in everything that we do in our songs. We don't
Mm,
want to go out there and kind of just fumble through it.
yeah,
I think we've all been there, in our, playing in front of people. We've all been to that point where we kind of fumble through shows, you're
yeah,
getting used to it. But I know we want to really put out a super polished, product.
yeah,
But once we get to that point, I mean, I would love to play as often as possible.
Mm,
More local shows around here, play a lot of the local venues.
yeah.
That I've never actually played. I've never played a show in actual Boise. I
Oh,
played
really?
shows in North Dakota all the time when I was in the a couple of bands in college, but never actually played one in a Boise venue. So really looking forward to doing that. But yeah, I mean, once we get to that point, just as often as we can, really.
Nice. That's bizarre that you haven't played a show in Boise, but I guess it makes sense
Yeah.
because when you left, you went to college in North Dakota, and then you went away for a while, and now you're back.
Right.
But no,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
And of
Um,
course, grew up going to a lot of the shows here,
yeah.
in different venues. And obviously, since then, there's new venues here that I, frequent when there's live music and go see it. But yeah, have yet to play one. So we're excited for the one coming up in March because it's at a venue here called the Hive. It's a
Mm,
really really neat nonprofit organization
yep.
that focuses on suicide prevention for
Yep.
musicians, which is great organization. We get to play there, so we're really looking forward to that.
Yep. I know that that's actually one of the venues that I know in Boise because
Oh, great, great,
before I moved to Waco, when I was kind of in that process, I was living in Tallahassee, Florida beforehand. And I was in that process of finding a new job. I was like, I'm kind of done with Tallahassee. I'm ready to move. And I had
sure.
it down to three cities. It was Knoxville, Tennessee, Waco, Texas, and Boise, Idaho.
Oh wow,
And
nice.
Waco won because essentially they were the ones that offered me the job. But
Sure, sure.
Boise was the very close second.
Oh, great.
So it was the very
Cool.
close second. So, it was one of those things where had they offered me the job, I probably would have taken that one. But I would have broken my ever since I graduated from college, I've set a boundary that I'm never going any further north than Southern Illinois because
Sure. I can understand
yeah, because I
that.
grew up in Chicago, and so like I
Oh,
had all the snow, the lake effect snow.
the
I've dealt with
wind.
all
Yeah.
that, the wind,
Yeah.
just everything. And when I left there and graduated from college, I was like, all right, I'm never moving any further north than right here,
Yeah. Yeah.
Southern
No, I
Illinois.
get that. Especially after living in North Dakota, I fully,
Yeah,
I'm fully on board with
yeah.
that for sure.
And that was the one thing when I left North Dakota. So I was there for like a week, and I called my boss, or who would have been my boss. I was like, hey, this ain't gonna work. Like, I can't afford to live here. And I called
Yeah.
my mom and said, hey, I need a couch to crash on because I need to kind of regroup. And they're like, all right, come on down. And so I drove from Willis, or so my mom was actually with me. I called my dad. So my mom was actually with me. We drove from Williston, North Dakota, all the way down to South Florida.
Oh boy. Actually, what's funny? When I mentioned I played baseball there in college, we
Yeah.
made that same drive.
Yeah.
We drove from Minot all the way over to Cocoa Beach,
Oh,
Florida.
well.
Yeah,
Well,
we played which was a crazy trip in itself, but we played spring break tournament over there,
okay.
which was a crazy
My
drive.
own my only regret, there's 2 regrets I had in my time in living in or in my time in North Dakota. One was I didn't get to see my buddy play professional ball. At the time, he had gotten drafted by the Arizona Diamondbacks, and he was up in,
Oh, nice.
Montana playing in the rookie league that they have up
Mm-hmm.
there,
Right.
and I should have taken the 3.5 hours to drive to go see him play, but I didn't. And then the second one was not stopping to see Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, I did that a couple of times on my way because I used to make the trip back for like Christmases and holidays to Boise, and yeah, went down to Keystone and saw Mount Rushmore. Did that whole trek down there. That was pretty amazing. And Spearfish Canyon,
Yeah,
nice area.
yeah.
Well, and when you went there, that was during the oil boom. That was a crazy time. I mean,
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember. I remember where that was towards. Let's see, what year was that? Was that
That
oh
was
eight?
2013.
It was
Fracking
okay.
oil, yeah, it was the
Okay.
fracking oil boom.
Okay, got it. Got it. So it was starting to pick up when I left. I left in '09.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had heard stories about how
Oh,
crazy stuff got there.
oh, yeah. Like, when I got there, like you had, like you had people sitting outside of Walmart telling you when certain things were going to be delivered so you knew when to be there. Like if you
Yeah.
needed to get eggs or chicken or rice or
Because it was
whatever.
just, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And like the other thing was, even if they told you it was going to be delivered on that day, it may not get put on the shelves for another 2 days because the entire city was built on like oil field workers coming in, and there weren't a lot of families there.
right,
So they didn't have anybody to work the minimum wage job at Walmart or the minimum wage job at McDonald's, or, just like all
right.
the little things that you forget about.
Yeah,
So like we went there, my mom and I, and we got a hotel room that first couple of nights, and it was like, I'm hungry. It's 7 o'clock. Let's go get some food. Everything was closed by 5:30
yeah,
because
yeah.
they just didn't have enough workers.
Right,
And
right.
it's it,
It's interesting. I through college, my job was I dealt blackjack. You know, in North Dakota and
yeah,
Minot, they can have blackjack
yeah,
in the bars, and we'd get rig workers that would come in, and they work their crazy. What is it? It's all different, I know, but they're 3 week on, 3 week off
yeah.
schedule, and I mean, it not only is it an insane schedule, like you're in insane temperatures. I
Hmm.
mean, it's super dangerous work, but then you're also making a lot of money, so you have a lot of time,
Yep,
to spend that money on
yep,
different things, and
yep.
it's a different lifestyle for sure.
Oh yeah, like especially up in Williston, I would hear rumors that the local strip clubs would fly worker dancers from Vegas
I
into
actually heard
Williston,
that same thing, which is funny. So
and
it
it
must be true.
and it's just like, yo, how much disposable income are these guys making and just throwing
Yeah.
around that they could just do
Well,
that?
and like you said too, you talk about those jobs like
Yeah,
working, in the food industry,
yeah,
but if you can go work in the oil fields and make 150 plus a year,
yep,
I mean, it kind of skews the job force a little bit, but
yeah.
that was just from an outsider, of course, looking
Yeah.
in,
Oh
but
yeah. It was kind of funny because I was going to be working at the TV station there, and I was on the phone with my who would have been my boss and telling her like, "Yo, I knew you said it was going to be expensive to live here. I didn't realize it was going to be this expensive. There's no way I can make this work." And she's like, "Well, what if we just let you work as many hours as you could possibly handle?" And I'm like, "At $15 an hour, I'm gonna have to work 80 hours a week
right,
just to get by."
yeah,
And
and be
then I'm probably still gonna have to go take a part-time job at Walmart or something, stocking shelves, just
yeah,
because.
while doing really hard work and labor and not having any additional time outside of that. Yeah, that'd
Yeah,
be
and it's just like, this sounds like the worst decision I've ever made.
yeah.
And then, like, a day later, I told my dad, he's like, "Come on down, we'll get it squared away." And then I traded one oil town for another and moved out to southeastern New Mexico, who was
Yeah,
going through a little bit of a oil boom themselves, but
yeah.
luckily it wasn't nearly as expensive to live in Roswell.
It's funny. You asked me earlier about like places I want to visit. So
Yeah,
a couple of years ago, I said I work for an educational publisher. So I was
yeah,
working with schools for a
yeah.
while, and New Mexico was actually one of my accounts.
Oh, really?
Several cities there, and man, that is a hidden gem.
Oh, yeah.
I loved that place. I had
Oh, yeah.
never thought twice about New Mexico, really. It was never one of those that's like on my list to go visit. But I went to Bandelier National Park. I don't know if
Oh,
you know where that is. Is that Santa Fe? I can't remember
yeah,
now where I
yeah,
was
that's
at,
Santa
but
Fe. I think so.
I mean that was amazing. Worked with a lot of schools in Albuquerque, a lot of surrounding towns.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a really really cool
Did you get a
place.
chance to go into, like, South New Mexico? Like, just
I
south of.
I I didn't, but I heard a lot of really great things about
Yeah,
it. That's what everyone kept telling me to go do.
yeah,
I can't
it's,
I can't I can't remember the actual place. There was a place that many people recommended, and I feel like it was like
It was probably Redoso. That
it might
sounds
have been that.
yeah,
And it was I remember from where I was predominantly working, it was quite a drive to get there. And usually where I was when I was there for like 1 or 2 days at a time. Then I'd fly
yeah.
home, and then I'd
It
go back
might have
out.
not it might not have been Redoso then, because
Is
Redoso
that
is
fairly close?
it's only like an hour and a half drive.
Okay, yeah. This was like I remember again, I can't remember what this actual. It was like some particular landmark or something to see, but it
Mm.
was like I remember it being like 5 hours south of where I was at.
Okay, then it's probably down in like Las Cruces or something. Las Cruces
Maybe it
is
was.
a heck of a drive. Or Silver
Yeah.
is Las Cruces or Silver City? Because like even though like as the crow flies, it may not be that far away, but because roads are so limited, it's
Right.
like you have to go east to go west type of
Yeah.
situation. You know,
Sure.
it's one of
Sure.
those things.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I really enjoyed my time there. Again, it was never one of those. It was on my radar, just
mm,
like Idaho, isn't for a lot of people. And
yeah,
then they come here and it's like this place has
really
existed
cool.
here
Yeah.
this whole time.
Yeah. Then, like, I mean, I went out to New Mexico on a bet. Like, I was looking for the most random place to go work, and Roswell, New Mexico popped up, and they were hiring for a commercial producer at the TV station. And I was like, okay, cool. Interviewed, got the job. And then all my friends bet me that I wouldn't actually move there. And I'm like, see ya.
Pay up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just like, and I was like, 3 weeks later, I was out there and I stayed there for 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved it.
So, it's one of those things where it's like people ask me if they ever think I'll move back, and it's like I could see a thing where I move back, like especially if because I wasn't making a whole lot of money out there, but in Roswell, you don't need to make a whole lot of money
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
to be
Yeah. It's
comfortable.
relative.
Like
Yeah.
utilities and whatnot are super cheap.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
what who so where's some venues that you want to play? Like, do you have like a dream, like a bucket list of venues that you want to play, or what are some of those?
I mean, there's definitely a lot of local places here. Like I said, that I would grow up, going to watch,
Mhm.
bands play. Even since I've been back, there's some main venues in town. The Neurolux is one of them. There's a really cool place here called the Olympic. Just some of those places. There's a place here called the Visual Arts Collective. There's some of those regular places that there's just always really good music there. I'd love to play in some of those places. I think it would be even cool, just to even get outside of Boise. There's a lot of surrounding cities here, and just play. I mean, there's really no specific venue that I want to check off the bucket list
Yeah,
again, other than those local community ones.
yeah.
But just play in many of them, and
Mhm.
get to check out the environment at different venues and get to support the venues because we're the local bands that are there, they're just as much to support the venues as anybody else. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, so that's what I'd be looking forward to.
Awesome. So the EP is out now. Have you given any thought about doing like hard pressings of like vinyl or CD, or is it all just kind of digital at this point?
At this point, it's digital. We did give a little bit of thought to it, and there may still be some stuff like
Yeah.
that to come. But for right now, it's at least digital, especially because that's the way most people consume their music
Yeah.
nowadays. But I recently had a guy. It was actually the guy that recorded us.
Hmm.
He said, then he's right. He's like, CDs are like the candy bar, of music. That's like the shiny thing that the kid always wants. They want the candy bar that's sitting on the shelf, and they don't necessarily need the candy
Yeah.
bar, but they, so yeah, maybe more to come. Maybe more to come on that for sure.
That's kind of how I feel about vinyl right now. It's just one of those things where it's like I have no intention of actually playing the vinyl,
Right.
but just having that piece of
Just something
artwork.
about them. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We have a really cool local record store here, the Record Exchange, where you can go there and get a lot of old vinyl, and it's just a
Nice.
super. Yeah, I agree with you that vintage aspect of it for sure.
Oh yeah. I think there's a place here in Waco. I haven't had a chance to go to it yet, but like my concern is now it's like they know what they have and they could just like mark up the price. So
Yeah,
it's just
that's
like
true. That's very
eh,
true. It's like a lot of that stuff, like just various things that are circling back up to be really popular. That who knows? VHS tapes might be back in someday.
man, I hope not. Like okay, so about 3 months ago, we released an article about the rise of cassette tapes.
Oh yeah,
It's like a huge DIY punk thing.
sure.
And
Yep.
and so, like, I'm sitting there looking at it, and I'm like, "All right, there's no beneficial sound quality, like, they don't sound that appealing, there's no
No,
like, they don't sound
it's
good,
all the aesthetic for sure.
and they're not even like" and I so, like, in my, I was doing some research on it, and I was like, it's a big thing in like the DIY punk scene. And I'm like,
Right.
okay, well, they must be cheap then. Like cassette tapes must be cheap to produce or cheap to get your hands on. No, they're more expensive than like CDs. Like
Yeah.
you go on Amazon and you can get like a 6 pack of HQ cassette tapes and it's like $40. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
Because they probably
These
don't stock them anymore because nobody buys them. So then when they do, they want to
yeah.
shoot the
Well,
prices through the roof.
well, that's the thing is nobody makes them anymore. So like
Right.
all the stock they have is
You
left
charge
over
what you want.
from the mid '90s whenever they stopped
Yeah.
producing cassette tapes. So it's just like
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm good, you
Yeah,
know.
for sure. That's funny.
Yeah. As you know, I would thinking about it, I remember going to a show a few years back and somebody was selling a cassette tape and I was like, "Oh, that's a funny gimmick thing." And it's like,
Yeah. No,
"No,
that's their, yeah.
that's the thing people do." And I'm like,
Yeah, yeah. They
"Dang."
should sell the Walkman with it,
Yeah.
if they're gonna sell a cassette tape, because who could play a cassette tape anymore? But yeah, I do appreciate that kind of vintage aspect to it too. And half the punk songs that were written, and at least when I were growing up, was about a mixtape anyway.
Yeah.
So like that was the content of the song. So you have to have it on a tape.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But I don't want to take up too much more of your time here. Um So the EP is out now. You're doing the digital. You're sticking pretty much digital. You got a show coming up in March. Where could people find you online to get more information on the show? And listen to your
Yeah.
music.
Yeah, so we're available pretty much everywhere. We're available on all social media, Facebook, Instagram. But the easiest way is just probably our bandname.com, mylobybee.com. That's where we'll keep um, updated with everything, all of our music, any of our happenings. We have a mailing list. We'll post any upcoming shows there. So that's probably where I'd start for sure. And then our EP is available on really any streaming service. So same thing, just search our
Awesome,
name and you can pull it up.
awesome, awesome. Well, once again, I want to thank you so much for giving us the time to sit down and chat. It's been an absolute blast. But before we wrap
Absolutely.
this up, I want to ask you the most polarizing question I can possibly find.
Let's do it.
Pineapple pizza, yes or no?
Yes.
See, now you're
Yes.
destroying all my analytics. You're that outlier of all my analytics because you don't live on
I,
the coast, you don't live in the South. Like,
I don't know where that came from. I know there is two types of people. You either like pineapple pizza or you
yeah,
don't. And we had it growing up all the time. And yeah,
really?
definitely
Okay.
all day. Yeah.
Because like growing up in the Midwest, it was a huge no-no. Like, nope, pineapple pizza, nope, no chance. You will be burnt at the stakes. But and then as I started doing this podcast, it's just like a moment of levity, just like, hey, let's have fun, whatever. And I started like actually taking notice that it is a very southern and coastal thing.
Yeah.
And then you come along and it's like, nope.
I'm the anomaly. Well, and it's interesting too. To be honest, I haven't had pineapple pizza in a long time.
Yeah.
So I may change that opinion once I try it again. But I mean,
Yeah.
to today, I would say definitely.
Is there a lot of good pizza places out in Boise or
There is, yeah. Yeah, we have a lot of good local places for sure.
nice? Next time
Yeah.
next time we drive through, we'll have to actually stop in Boise.
Yeah,
Because it was
absolutely.
because this was like when we came through, it was July of 2019, so I hadn't quite had that many connections in Boise yet. But
Yep.
now 2 years or a year and a half later, whatever it is, it's like, nope, completely different story now. Now we almost
Yeah.
have to stop. So
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it's like I said too, I mean, it's a really, really great city. They do a lot for the arts. There's always something going on the
yeah,
on the weekends, on the weeknights. And yeah, like I said, there's great organizations just like the Hive. I mean, just those types of things that they're
yep,
doing here. Just really great stuff.
yep, absolutely. But
Yeah.
once again, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will catch you guys later.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, we're good.
All right.
All
Cool.
right. So the video's up on Facebook now. The audio will be up on Spotify, iTunes, all the podcasting platforms tomorrow
Awesome.
afternoon.
Awesome.
So,
Hey, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.
yep. Thank you. Did you have any questions about anything or?
As far as me sharing this, is the best way to just go on Facebook and share it right from there?
Yeah, if you want to share the video, that's the best place. And then for the Spotify link, I can send you through Messenger. Like I'll just
Awesome.
because I saw you accepted my friend request on Facebook,
Yep.
I can
Yep.
send you the Spotify link
Yeah,
through
because
there.
I definitely want to share it and promote what you're doing too. So
Thank you. Really
yeah,
appreciate that.
awesome. Hey, thanks a lot.
Yeah, and then I'll which like if you were to pick like a lead single or one song off the your 5 songs, what one would you want us to put on the playlist?
Oh, do you have a kind of an eclectic playlist, or is it
Yeah,
kind of a
it's all
genre
over.
or
It's all over the place.
all
Like,
over? Why don't you
I
do?
mean, if well, I mean, technically we have 2 playlists. We have one that's just all over the place, but then we also have one that's more just like rock music for the radio show.
Why
So,
don't you do? Why don't you do Spit?
okay.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. I wasn't sure, so I figured I'd just ask you. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I
add that
appreciate
to
it.
the playlist. Awesome.
Cool.
But yeah, other than that, feel free to reach out anytime you got something going on. If you want to jump back on, more than welcome.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. I
So,
appreciate it.
yep, I'm gonna go make some dinner. So I'll talk to you
All
later.
right.
All
Have a
right.
good night. Bye.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.